Western civilization. How much do you know? My name is Russell Miles, and this is the 25th episode of our Western Civilization series. In this episode, we're going to look at the Bible and its impact on Western culture. Now, I confide that when I started this series, I would not have thought this topic was within my competence. It probably isn't, but I'm going to do my best. Now, with the COVID-19 pandemic and Melbourne, Australia only recently coming out of a 9-month lockdown, I've had opportunity to update my teaching qualifications, undertake some more personal care work, resort the spice jars, and do a number of online Bible courses. I've taken quite a few ideas from an aspiring theological scholar, Matthew Korpman. I undertook his course in early Christian traditions. I'm going to include a link to Matthew's work at the end of this podcast. But I must stress that thoughts and ideas are my own. I'm responsible. I'd also drawn on my father's commentaries by the esteemed but somewhat radical Scottish theologian William Barclay. I'd also read up on the New Testament scholar Bart Ehrman, who has had 6 books in the New York bestseller list. I also looked at my father's books by Bishop Shelby Spong, Albert Schweitzer, among others. For some balance, I looked at the American New Testament scholar N.T. Wright, American Bishop Robert Barron, and I read up on Catholicism and Jewish theology. I'm conscious that the Bible is precious to many people. I believe that people ought to be able to practice their own faith, raise their family as they choose. I hope this podcast might encourage folk to explore this fascinating topic further that has had such an impact on Western civilization.
The first thing to stress is that there is no such thing as the Bible. The term Bible is from the Latin biblia and the Greek biblos for the books, or papyrus scrolls, and has come to mean a collection of authority for sacred texts in Christian and Jewish traditions. As mentioned in previous episodes, there is no common canonical books in the Bible, nor are they in the same order with the some books combined or separated. Within Latin and Germanic languages, there are over 400 contemporary versions of the Bible. The Catholic Church canonical has 73 books, Protestants generally number 66, with the Ethiopian Orthodox Church having 81. And the spirits of the giants afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth, and cause trouble. They take no food, but nevertheless hunger, and thirst, and cause offences. And these spirits shall rise up against children of men and against women, because they had proceeded from them. Enoch 15:11. The Book of Enoch is part of the canon of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. This book is a compilation of 5 major sections, some dated to the 4th century BCE. Enoch is described as the great-grandfather of Noah and is said to have walked faithfully with God, and then he was no more because God took him away. Genesis 5:24. In the New Testament, Enoch, the 7th from Adam, prophesied then, "See, the Lord is coming with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones to judge everyone and to convict all of them of their ungodly acts they have committed in the ungodliness, and all of their defiant words ungodly sinners have spoken against them." Jude 14:15. The Book of Enoch survived in the Ethiopian Church, and in 1773 copies were obtained, and an English translation appeared in 1821. The Book of Enoch introduces apocalyptic themes, hell, salvation, Son of Man, and the coming of the Messiah, which were to become the major themes of Christian theology. Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city, Sodom. Will you then sweep away the place and not forgive it for 50 righteous who are in it? Abraham. If I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will forgive the whole place for their sake. God. Let me take it upon myself to speak to the Lord. I am but dust and ashes. Suppose 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking. Abraham. I will not destroy it. God. Suppose 40 are found there. Suppose 30. Suppose 20. Suppose 10. Abraham bargaining with God. Genesis 18:16-33. Genesis 18:22. So the men turned from there and went towards Sodom, while who remained standing before whom? According to the Revised Standard Version, Abraham remained standing before the Lord. In the New International Version, Abraham stands before the Lord, as he does in the New American Standard Bible, New International Reader, New King James Version, Anglicized Catholic Edition, Orthodox Jewish Bible. But in the New Living Translation, Yahweh was still standing before Abraham. This text is a TQ Supreme, a minor rabbinical revision for theological reasons. With the original order suggesting irreverence towards God, the word order was changed to have Abraham standing before God. The story is even deeper, as in Genesis 19 it is revealed that God is being deceitful to Abraham. The two angels tell Abraham's nephew Lot, "Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place." That is, God intended to destroy Sodom regardless if there were any righteous in the city. Was the account changed as it was too troubling that Abraham challenged God for lacking compassion? The binding of Isaac, or Akedah, in Genesis 22 is one of the most well-known stories from the Bible, and tells of God instructing Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac as a test of his faith. But who is testing whom? As in verse 5, he, Abraham, says to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there to the place of sacrifice. We will worship and then we will come back to you." Does this mean Abraham expects that he and Isaac will return from the sacrifice? Abraham also tells Isaac that God will provide the sacrifice. That is, it won't be Isaac. Jewish theology has that Abraham never believes that Isaac will be harmed, and he has faith that God will protect his son. Islamic views see the son as willing to be sacrificed, although considering it was Ismail. The submission of Abraham and his son is commemorated by Muslims on the days of Al-Eid al-Adha. Christian theologians have asserted that Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead, and so in a manner of speaking he did receive Isaac back from death. Hebrews 11:19. Although there was no concept of resurrection in Hebrew texts until the book of Daniel, which is dated 2,500 years after Genesis. But is Abraham seeing if Yahweh is like all the other gods, requiring child sacrifice, and testing if Yahweh is worthy of Abraham's people? That seems an even grander story than one of obedience. The Old Testament or Hebrew Bible is a collection of ancient Hebrew writings referred to as the Tanakh. This comprises of 24 books with some differences in order of text, with splitting and adding of text, and in Christian traditions can be up to 49 books. This is among the oldest and most comprehensive texts and has survived to the modern era due to its veneration and diligence of the Jewish faith in rewriting copies. The first 5 books, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers and Deuteronomy, are called the Torah or law and include fables, history and codes of law. The books of Joshua, Judges, Samuel and Kings are about the kingdom of Israel. The remainder is from the Babylon exile, when the Hebrews returned to rebuild the temple, and is often referred to as the Second Temple period. The books of the Tanakh were mostly written in Hebrew, which is a Semitic language and whose alphabet has been identified from the 10th century BCE. The language faded from use from the Babylon period in the 5th century BCE, with Aramaic becoming the common language, so books appeared in that tongue along with Greek. In folklore, Moses wrote the Torah, although scholars have said that the Tanakh was mostly written around the Babylon period and assembled into a common collection by the 2nd century BCE. The oldest copy of the Tanakh is held in the Imperial Russian Library and believed to be written in Galilee around AD 1000. The Epilogue Codex was of a similar age, but portions were destroyed in anti-Jewish riots in 1947. The Dead Sea Scrolls include significant fragments from the 2nd century BCE. A small fragment with identified lines from Deuteronomy and a few other books dated from the 6th century BCE was discovered in 1979 in the old city of Jerusalem. "And he went up there thence unto Bethel, and as he was going by the way, there came forth young lads out of the city, and mocked him, and said unto him, Go up, thou bald head, go up, thou bald head. And he looked behind him and saw them, and he cursed them in the name of Jehovah. And there came forth 2 she-bears out of the woods, and tare 42 lads of them." 2 Kings 2:23-24. This tale about the prophet Elisha appears somewhat troubling. Jehovah seems to have taken seriously anyone impeding the work of a prophet, including lads from a bad hood. Bethel was the home of calf worshippers, 1 Kings 12:28 and 29, who did call Elijah baldy after all. God sends 2 she-bears who only tear them. That may not be that bad. Perhaps the boys were just bruised up. And if you look at the International Children's Bible, it says that they tore to pieces 42 of the young men. So it seems that the boys got killed after all. The Armenian Orthodox Church is one of the oldest Christian communions. According to tradition, the apostles Bartholomew and Thaddeus were said to have cured Abgar V of Edessa of leprosy, leading to his conversion in 30 AD. The kingdom of Osroene was subject to Roman suzerainty, but outside legal and cultural control. Thaddeus was then commissioned by Abgar to evangelize throughout Armenia. The 2 apostles were martyred, but not before they had ordained native bishops. Contemporary scholarship suggests the conversion of Abgar is a myth, promoted by Christians in the 3rd century. Perhaps Abgar VIII wanted to assert legitimacy of his reign. Abgar was balancing the Roman and their erstwhile enemy, the Parthian Empire, to maintain independence. In 213 CE, Abgar's son, Abgar IX, and his own son were murdered at the orders of the Roman Emperor Caracalla, with Osroene incorporated as a province into the Roman Empire. There are no Gospels about Bartholomew and Thaddeus, nor most of the other apostles.
Is God a male, female, or neither? We'll examine this in our next podcast, along with the camel problem and other issues in the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and tick like. I can be contacted at email russmills@iprimus.com.au. Thanks for listening.